is an 8-iron, and it's a dead shank.
Wow.
Way right.
Oh,
Takes a hop
shank.
off the paddle.
You got to be kidding me. Very tough pitch shot right here. You got to hit it into the hill. One hop up and bite, and it's in.
Kind of like that.
Well, I would like to welcome a 29-time winner around the world of professional events, including the 1989 Open Championship, Ryder Cups, President's Cups, one of the greatest players of his generation, Mark Calcavecchia. Thank you, sir, for doing the podcast. I think this is our third time, so thanks for coming on.
Yeah, Jason, thank you. Thanks for having me, and always enjoy talking to you.
It's our 100, I've done 150 of these. You were the first, so I still owe you one. Yeah, and we're at 100. Now you're at 150, right? We've had a lot of them in between. So you were the first one, kind enough to do it, and God, I was terrible at it back then. So thanks for going through the first. But I can't believe I've done 150 of these conversations. So thanks, man. Like I said, I really appreciate you being the first and all.
Yeah, that was cool. Thank you.
Well, every time I seem to talk to you, last time I think it was the back and you had to get fused, and now it's and I'm with you on this one, knee replacements. So every time we talk, you're trying to rehab and get better here. So how is your journey going with that? Doing both knees back to back, you are a brave bastard. I'll give you that much. For as much as mine still hurts from just doing one. So
right.
Game plan, how you doing? When can we potentially see you back on the Champions Tour? How's that all going?
They've been doing pretty good. You always want them to, get better faster, but it's only been exactly 2 months since I did the right one, and I did the left one in November. So I can hit balls. I hope to play in Des Moines at the Principal Charity Classic, which is the first week of June, so 2 more months. The only thing I'm struggling with right now, hitting doesn't bother either knee, which is good. Is just my endurance. I think basically from doing pretty much nothing other than physical therapy for the last 5 months, my endurance is just a little short. I went out and hit some balls the other day, and I hit probably 10 wedges, and my heart rate got up. I was like out of breath. I was like, man, this isn't good. So I sat down, rested, hit some more, same thing, and went out and played 5 holes. And thought that was enough. So, and it's only been 2 months since I had the right one done, but they're both doing pretty good, and I think I'll be as good as new, hopefully, in about another month.
Does the golf swing feel more like you want it to feel, especially with that left knee being fixed? I'm assuming to go through this, it was pretty bad where you couldn't rotate through the right way.
Yeah, it was. It was really bad. There was no question I had to have it done. And, when I did hit balls for the first time, I tried to hit some about 3 weeks ago, which was only 5 weeks after doing the right knee. I didn't trust the right knee, so I was just kind of hanging on my left side and then throwing my hands at it and chunked everything and thought to myself, I'm definitely not ready yet. So I waited a few more weeks and then actually went out and hit it really nice where I could trust getting – my weight back on my right side and then transferring my weight and clearing. And so the knees were no problem as far as actually hitting golf balls. Now it's just a question of getting stronger.
I hear you, Calc. I'm 5 weeks into mine. It's beating the hell out of me. I'm down, 7-8 pounds in weight. Like your appetite goes away. Like it's really weird. Like, and I worked my ass off to get in shape beforehand, but you don't realize how major of a surgery it is, where they're tapping into both bones and kind of almost fracturing your legs, on both sides, and your body gets the hell beat out of it through these. And like doing them back to back, 100%. I can't, from doing one, I've lost my stamina a little bit. I can't imagine 2 of them. And I get what you're saying. Like you sit around and you can't do a whole lot but your rehab and then rest and then rehab and rest. I bet you it's gonna, for you to be ready to go, play tournament golf with the pro-ams, 3 rounds, be competitive. It's a lot of work. I have to imagine that's going to be ahead of you still just to be tournament ready, which is a whole different ballgame.
Right. Yeah, it sure is. And the thing that was hard for me is my right knee, which I did second, was actually worse than my left knee, but I wanted to do the left one first. They were both bone on bone and both really bad. But when I was rehabbing my left knee, I couldn't walk because my right knee hurt so bad. So, I just had to do the physical therapy on the left knee, but I couldn't really get anywhere because my right knee hurt so bad. And then having that one done, it's just kind of a long process. But I know 2 months is going to go by pretty quick, and I'm a little worried about it. But if I'm not quite ready to play in June, I'll wait till July. I can still play 6 or 7 or 8 whatever Champions Tour events the rest of the year, no matter when I start. So, everybody says don't rush it. It's like with my back. You can't rush it because you can't hit it. You know you're not ready, and I won't come back till I'm certain that I can handle playing. Like Des Moines, I said I'll play the Tuesday Pro-Am. I'll probably have the Wednesday, Thursday Pro-Am. So, that'll be 6 days in a row with 3 Pro-Ams.
Right.
So that.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot.
Ready if I'm going to do all that.
Well, you've had this downtime. You're spending time with Brenda at home. Like, what have you been trying to do to keep yourself busy? With all of this downtime. I know you guys are. There's always a house project going on or something. So, what have you tried to do just to keep your mind sane, basically?
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of TV, a lot of golf. I'm almost out of shows to watch on Netflix and Hulu, and I'm going broke paying for all these subscriptions for stuff to watch. I got to keep putting money in my Apple account, but it has been boring. I've even, Brenda looks at me and she says, "You're just bored stiff, aren't you?" I said, "I'm so bored, it's ridiculous." But now that we're working on this move again. I actually did quite a bit yesterday, probably more than I should have. Just carrying light stuff, but I did a lot of walking, a lot of this and that. So, I think it was good for my legs and my knees to get a good workout like that and not overdo it. But just trying to be helping around the house and doing what I can.
Well, I know you watch a lot of golf. You're a golf fan. So Masters coming up, and it's going to be an interesting year with the LIV guys going to the dinner and all that stuff. But kind of watching golf like you watch, is there a couple players that are standing out to you right now that if you were betting money, you kind of like their chances at Augusta this year?
Yeah. I mean, you always have to look at the defending champ, Scotty Scheffler. As good as he plays and putts and does everything well. Of course, Cameron Young's really due for a win, and it seems like that place would be perfect for him as good as he hits it and as far as he hits it. But they all hit it far. Spieth loves it there, but he's a little wobbly. I think tee to green. At any given second, he can hit one about 50 yards offline. So, but something tells me he'll kind of be hanging around there at the end. As far as some of the Europeans go, Tyrrell Hatton's been playing great every week. Justin Rose, of course, John Rahm. It's going to be fun to watch. It looks like it's going to be a pretty good week of weather there, nice and warm, so it shouldn't be anything goofy going on. But I can't wait to watch it.
Does Scheffler kind of remind how is his power fade driver swing and the footwork and all, it kind of reminds me of you, like in the heyday when you would just let it go with everything, and I see a little bit of Kelk in that golf swing of hitting that hard fade and just ripping at it.
There's no doubt. My foot never went back as far as his did, though. If you go back and look at some of my stuff in the late '80s and whatnot, it kind of slid back about halfway. Occasionally, Scotty gets his right foot all the way dead behind his left foot and almost falls over. Especially
it's crazy, isn't it?
Hard, yeah. But yeah, it's a similar action. And I remember one year at the Byron Nelson, not too long ago, probably the last year I played on tour. Somebody said, you don't have the right foot slide back like you used to. So I started practicing trying to do that and was really hitting it good. I just think over time, as you get older and weaker, obviously I don't swing as hard, and my lower body action isn't as fast. So that's basically why his foot does that, because he just really clears his left side really hard, and the right foot just goes back because of it.
Yeah, and I love it how he just basically hits that hard fade all the time off the tee. That's kind of his go-to shot. Oh, man, like people can say what they want about the footwork. I agree with you. Just let that body rotate out of the way, give it a little bit extra hold, and just let that thing, fall to the right a little bit. What a wonderful way to play golf off the tee, right? If you have that go-to shot, and
he's playing great and driving it great. A lot like I did in my prime. He takes the left half of the golf course out of play, and he just knows he can start it up the left side and it's going to cut back. And that's a really good feeling to have, knowing that you're not going to hit it over into the left shit.
During the major, when you were, we can swear, it's fine. Did you prepare different for a major versus a regular tour event, or do you trick your mind to say it's a golf tournament? Here's my routine, and this is how I do it.
Yeah, I pretty much. I just kind of rolled into the tournament. Always excited to get to the majors, but I didn't do anything different. And I never worried about, sometimes I play the week before, sometimes I wouldn't. It wasn't anything like that. And as, time went on, obviously I knew pretty much every single course that we played majors on, whether it be, Shinnecock or Oakmont or Pebble or wherever. I played them all, so I more or less knew what to expect when I got there. Of course, U.S. Open back then, the rough was always super thick. Now I think they've done over the last 10 years or so, done a better job of kind of not making it chip out rough all the time. But yeah, I kind of just went into those tournaments just hoping I'd play good and hope for the best.
Yeah, and not put too much pressure on yourself, right? Because there is pressure in a major tournament, and I'd have to imagine just keeping your normal routine helped with that a little bit, right? Of the magnitude of the moment. It's just, this is what I do, and this is my normal tournament week schedule, and I'm just going to do what I do well.
Exactly, and you can stand there all day long and tell yourself it's just another tournament, but if you're playing in the U.S. Open and you have a good front nine and you're 2 or 3 under, then all of a sudden you think to yourself, oh my God, I'm leading the U.S. Open. You're aware of where you're at and what you're playing in. And when it comes to the 4 majors, it's a little bit different feeling, and that's why they're the 4 biggest events we have.
So last year, you got to play in your final Open at St. Andrews. How was that experience, with, and I'm probably answering my own question here, but the love and respect that those fans have for their champions who have won that tournament? Like, what's that experience like? And to be able to finish at St. Andrews, I know you were hurt and couldn't play your best golf, but just the whole week. Yeah,
I was in serious pain. The first day wasn't too bad because we teed off at 11:30, and it takes 5.5 hours to play around there because all the double greens. So, pretty much every tee box I got to sit down for 2 or 3 minutes and kind of regroup. The second round we were first off, and I was playing with Ryan Fox and Jediah Morgan, and they're both super fast. So it was like a racetrack, and I was just, every time either one of my feet hit the ground, it was agonizing pain. But I got through it. Obviously didn't play well, but the fans were great. They knew I was hurting. I got so much encouragement, and to finish at St. Andrews, my kids were there and my son-in-law. So it was, and of course Brenda caddied, and it was awesome. It really was. It meant a lot. And again, the fans are what makes that tournament and that event the best there is, because they really appreciate you.
Yeah, and they seem to get it, right? In the sense of, I love it how they applaud a shot that goes to 30 feet because they know that's the proper shot, right? They just, right. It's such great, I love how they appreciate proper golf, right? They know that course well enough of, yes, that's where you need to hit it from the position you were in on the fairway even. And they applaud it. Like they understand it. Yeah,
and it may not be the shot you wanted to hit exactly, but everybody, hey, everybody claps, and I'm like, oh, that was nice of them, So that's cool also, and they say well done, well holed, and you make a 4-footer, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, they really do understand the game of golf, and kind of where you're supposed to hit it on those golf courses.
What's a couple of the cool things you got to do that week as a former champion or, past champs? I know they had that little 9-hole tournament, and did you do the dinner? And what's some of the stuff that is just so memorable from that week that you get to do as a champion there?
Well, yeah, those two things you just mentioned, the 4-hole tournament with all the past champions, and that was really cool. And I played with, my clubs didn't show up till Wednesday.
Saw that.
I was using Baker Finches, and then I borrowed we played with a one-legged kid who was incredible, by the way. I borrowed his wedge on one, and it was a lot weaker than mine. I think I one-hopped it over the burn. So I was a little bit kind of clueless in that little 4-hole thing, but it was really cool anyway. It just kind of felt weird being out there with no clubs, but and then the past champions dinner is definitely much like Augusta, which they have every year, but we have it every 5 years at St. Andrews, and you meet out in front. It was a beautiful night. You meet out front, and everybody's all dressed up, except JD, of course. Staley had his, I think his Cardinals loudmouth jacket on and a T-shirt. But anyway, and then you have champagne or whatever up on the second floor up there, and you go out and overlook the first hole and just kind of take it all in. And there's people out there walking their dogs down the first fairway, and it's just stuff like that you don't see at other majors. And of course the town of St. Andrews, the atmosphere, just going to dinners and the people recognizing you on the street. And we rented Scott Dunlap. Scott Dunlap has a place right there, dead next door to the Dunvegan, which is the most famous pub.
Yeah, what a bar!
Literally 60 yards from the 18th green. So that's where we stayed for the week, and so the whole week was super memorable.
Is there still a little pinch me moment when you're at a dinner like that and you see those other players and knowing you're in that fraternity? Is it still just, I know it's not crazy because you won so much around the world, but is it still like my God, the accomplishment of what you accomplished? It still has to be so special for those moments.
Is when you're there with Jack Nicklaus and Lee Trevino and Tiger Woods, and of course Arnie when he was alive, and all the great champions won that tournament in past years. It is a pinch me moment, and even all the R&A guys are really pretty cool, and I think they love it as well. So, not to mention the food and the wine's great. So, and everybody passes their little menus around and gets signed. A lot like they do at the Masters dinner, and it's to have won that tournament. I mean, I've got my claret jug replica, which is 90% the size of the regular one, so you can't really tell any difference. Sitting right next to my TV, so I look at it every single day, and I keep threatening to get it down and shine it up a little bit, but that doesn't seem to happen. But
as you should. I would look at that every day too and go, my God, what an accomplishment, right? I mean, you earned that one.
I do, and I think about it a lot. So it's really cool to look at it and go back and think about that week.
I got to go to St. Andrews and play golf in Scotland last fall, and like to what you're saying about the town and the people, I absolutely fell in love with the whole country. I knew I would, but it even exceeded expectations of, I got to play Muirfield and Carnoustie, and the round at St. Andrews is just so special. Like I don't know what it is, and then the bars and go to the Jigger Inn and just hanging out in that town. Even my wife, who's not a golfer, was like, I love the vibe here between the university, the people, great, people don't think of Scotland and great food. You can get really good. The restaurants there are fantastic.
They are good.
We had really good. We had, if I could retire 6 months a year in St. Andrews, I could live that lifestyle there. I just dig everything about it.
It's so fun. I think I could too. And just, not just the old course, but, all the other courses there are supposed to be awesome too. I've never played the Eden or the Jubilee or any of the others but there's golf all over the place there. Carnoustie is not 45 minutes away, and Dundee has some great courses. So, you can play all day long. If you're there in the summer, you can play as much as you want to play. And that's the other cool thing about it. And everybody, it is an awesome atmosphere.
Yeah, I got to play the new course. I didn't play the others. In St. Andrews, played old and new. I thought the new was fantastic, right? Just
Right.
architecturally, they're just brilliant. They're so much fun to play. Like, that's what I noticed about the old course. It's just fun, right? Like, it's a fun golf course to play. Now, obviously, they don't have the tournament pins in and whatnot, but it's totally playable. You know, you can go left as much as you kind of want. It's just, it's a fun experience. You know, it's not like it beats the living hell out of you. You know, we had a nice day with 10, 15 mile an hour winds and 60-degree temperatures. It was perfect. You know, and you can shoot a good score out there and enjoy it. That's what I noticed.
Yeah, very much so. And that's one of the cool things about it is you know, the course is what it is, and whatever the guys shoot, they shoot, and the RNA is not too worried about it.
No, and like I said, the pace was good. They know what they're doing there, but what an experience, you know, to stand on the first tee and then, you know, play 17 and walk over the bridge on 18. Like, it's the most special golf course. There's something like religious about it, or there's some spirit there. I'm telling you, it's a different feeling. Any golf course I've ever played, there's something about it.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it for sure.
Yeah, it's beyond special. Another change we'll go back to the tour which you played for so long, the match play being canceled. What's your thought on that? Like, I'll give you my opinion real quick. Like, I love like Wednesday, Thursday, maybe even Friday. There's a bunch of action going on and watch on TV, but damn, Sunday gets boring, especially if the match isn't close. Like, did you enjoy playing in match play events like that, but do you see where it's tough for viewership as it goes, you know, through the week?
It does get tougher, and I understand why they went to the group play. I never played it. I was already gone by then by the time they switched it to group play. So every time I played in it, you know, if you lose in the first round, you're out of there. And I think 2 or 3 different times I won my first 2 matches and then lost in the third match. But I hear what you're saying. I watched quite a bit of it the first 3 days, and then like the morning of Saturday. And then once I got down to the last, you know, on Sunday, 4 guys, I watched a little bit of the morning, but I didn't watch any of the championship match. There's just too much time to fill in between and not enough action.
Yeah, and the semifinal match, those two didn't seem too motivated by that point, and I can understand why. You're exhausted. Right. You're not going to win it. You know, I'm not surprised they stood on the first tee and said, we'll split third and fourth place prize money and let's just get this thing out of the way. I don't know. Like,
that's exactly what I would have said. If I was Rory or Scotty, I would have said, all right, let's just split the cash. I'll volunteer to lose 7 and 6 and let's get the hell out of here.
Because you're not there for, right. I mean, you're there to win it, and you're deflated and you're exhausted, right? Like, I'm serious. Like, I can't fathom it. Gives a shit at that point, right? Like, right. You're deflated. You lost. You're not in the championship match. 100%. And you guys are there to win.
Yeah.
Split the money and let's get the hell out of here. Let's get this thing over by 13. I'm with you. So that makes it kind of boring too, because you can tell the passion really wasn't in that third and fourth place match.
Yeah, because I don't even know what the money difference was in that match. Maybe $100,000 or something, but you know, that's like $10 to anybody else. So I don't think they really cared too much.
Yeah, I think it was like 1.1 million versus 1.3 or something like that. So you're still getting $1 million for fourth place. Yeah. But yeah, split it down the line and say, all right, let's just go fire at everything and we'll get the hell out of here. The other interesting, I think your perspective of this one's really going to be interesting because of how the PGA Tour is now going to have these elevated events and these, for lack of a better word, non-elevated events. And the interesting thing to me is you have been in your career on both sides of that coin, meaning holding on to your card for dear life, learning how to stay out there, and then also being one of the best players in the world for a long period of time. What's your thoughts on this? It's almost like having 2 tours out there. It
is. You know, it's going to be kind of interesting because it is like 2 different tours. And you know, for this year, the Honda Classic was just sandwiched in between 4 elevated events, and you know, their field was horrible because of it. But there were some great storylines. You know, with my buddy Eric Cole, you know, losing in a playoff, and that guy Gerard, I can't remember his first name, the Monday qualifier.
Yeah.
Finishing 4th, I think. You know, I mean, there were some really, really cool storylines, and I still thought it was a great tournament. We went out. Russ Cochran was out there. Dylan Meyer, all Eric Cole's friends. and we were out there in the back nine. I got a hold of Paul Azinger, and he said I could take his cart, so I didn't have to walk all the way out to 15. But yeah, we drove down there and watched him play the last 4 holes and the playoff hole, and it was, I mean, the crowd was huge, and I think they loved it. So, but still, those events are going to suffer a little bit, I think, and they got to come up with a way to still have a certain amount of the guys that are at all the elevate events play those events. Maybe like 10 of them, one tournament that's not elevated, and the next one 10 different guys, or I don't know how they got to do it, but I think they got to help those tournaments out.
Yeah, I'm thinking like our local tournament, the John Deere Classic, right? I mean, what do you do with it? Do you bring in some more of the top Corn Ferry Tour guys to give them? I mean, this is the other thing. It's like, so then where does the Corn Ferry fit on this now if there's almost like 3 levels? Do you give some of those younger guys some exposure? And then the other question I have is, in theory, you guys are supposed to be independent contractors. Is the tour losing their ability to be able to say, hey, pick a top-ranked player, you got to go play in the John Deere Classic? Or is there going to be pushback where it's like, no, I'm going to play in these 15 events, and
right.
I'm not doing it? Is the tour potentially losing a little of their authority to tell these guys where they can and can't play? That's why I wonder too of these other events, and how do you solve the John Deere Classic? Beyond having one of the stars go playing it every now and then, do you bring in the younger guys, or do you give some Corn Ferry guys some more starts on the tour, because you got to promote those guys? They're going to be the next series of stars. I mean, Scheffler was on the Corn Ferry Tour. Yeah,
right. And that's going to be the problem for the Corn Ferry guys coming out next year, and even some of the guys that finish that don't finish in the top 70. They still keep their card, but they might play a tournament and they have to take 2 or 3 weeks off. Where they still can't even play. They're on tour, but they can't get in a tournament. You got the majors, you got the elevated events, you got the World Golf events. I mean, what happened to all the events were for the younger guys and the Corn Ferry guys to get into and play and try to get on some sort of rhythm. So it's definitely an issue of where these guys can be able to play and not.
Or also for or do you look at it this way from like your standpoint of, you learned how to do it and you became one of the best players in the world. Do you just tell the guys play better? Like, I don't know what to tell you. If you play better and work, everybody out there works hard. I always, I don't know if one guy outworks the other guy. They're still out in the PGA Tour, Corn Ferry Tour. You have to work your ass off to even be just, exempt out there. So they're all working hard, or is it just one of those deals where it is that cutthroat, where it's like, look, if you want to be in those elevated events, play better.
Yeah. Tiger told me that once. I texted him and bitched about being in a 5-hour delay at the airport, and he just texted me back and said, play better. In other words, he was already home. He didn't give me a ride. So, just play better. Yeah, that does solve everything, but it's not as easy as it sounds.
Right. Yeah. It's an interesting debate, right? Like, I don't know what the answer is. I when I watch this stuff, I really don't. I don't quite have it solved of how it's still a PGA Tour event, right? It's a John Deere Classic. It's a ton. Well, you played it a bunch of times. Like, it's a great tournament, great fans, great area of the country, right? I mean, the people love it. How do you make sure that event, which is still a PGA Tour event, stays relevant and they always had some star power out there, right? Between Zach and Stricker, and there was always a couple, 2 or 3, 4, premium groups out there. You probably were in a couple of those marquee groups. Like, it used to get, there were some stars out there.
Yeah, there sure was. Yeah, I know, and that's what I'm saying. I think they got to figure out a way to make sure that the John Deere Classic and each one of these tournaments still gets some stars and young stars from the Corn Ferry. Like you say, the golf's still great, like it was at the Honda. Even though you don't have anybody in the top 10 or top 20 in the world playing, but still you want to see Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth, and you want to see some of these guys. When you look at the pairings, you're going to go, I'm going to go watch, Spieth or Thomas or Scheffler or whoever, as opposed to, Sam Ryder, Matt Wallace, and Jimmy Walker. I mean, those guys still play great golf, obviously, and then not just singling out those guys, but you want to watch the guys that the stars of the game.
Golf ball change rule here. What's your thoughts on that one of essentially having a bifurcation of the elite player, and I don't know where that line gets crossed. Is it NCAA? Is it where is that Champions Tour going to play the ball? Like, what's your thoughts on this concept?
Well, I know we don't need any less distance, that's for sure. I did see something where if you normally swing it at 120 miles an hour, which nobody in the Champions Tour does, believe me, maybe Padraig Harrington or I don't know what Daly or Darren Clark. I mean, those are our longest guys, but you got to swing at 120 miles an hour to hit it as far as you would have had to hit it if you swung 127. Now, I think when you get down to swinging it around 100 to 105, which is probably what our average is on the Champions Tour, I don't know that it's going to make any difference. But I certainly don't need to hit it 10 yards shorter. I know that. But I don't know how it's going to work. And I don't know where you draw the line. College, amateur golf, it's going to be confusing. I kind of compare it to the group thing. I mean, they wasted, who knows, billions of dollars, all the companies combined switching all their grooves over, and it really didn't make any difference. And I don't know that the ball situation is either. So I'm actually, having said all that, I think it's kind of ridiculous.
And if I'm not in the golf ball business, but if I was, then I got to redesign this ball.
Yeah.
And no one in the public's going to buy the damn thing, right? Like,
right.
I'm not going to play the thing and go from hitting it 260 to 244. Like, no thanks.
Oh.
No. And you'd have to do all this R&D because if you're still going to make it for the elite, the guys on tour, that's not cheap. Then you have a product that 99.9% of the people have zero desire to buy.
To play.
So or do you just, did all the manufacturers just get together and tell the PGA Tour or USGA, make your own ball? We're not doing this. If Srixon and Callaway and TaylorMade all got together, almost like a union, and said, we're not spending the R&D money to do this for 0.0000001% of the people who play golf.
Yeah.
You guys do it. And then are they forced to make a U.S. Open ball or a Masters ball or an R&A ball that's just used for those events? And the manufacturers just, and I'm thinking from my standpoint, from a club standpoint, well, if the guys on tour we're working with, would I have to go back and redesign grooves or different, you know what I mean? Like, because now all of a sudden it's not going to perform at the highest level the same. Like, what a pain in the ass. For what? That's the part I don't quite get. Golf seems to be doing pretty good. And, I don't want to see champions. I like watching the Champions Tour events. I like watching birdies out there. I don't want to see, 250-yard drives. Shit, I can do that. That's boring. I want to see you guys pounding it and shooting 18 under for 3 rounds, right? Like, that's fun to watch.
I promise amateurs are walking into Edwin Watts and asking the guy behind the desk, what's the shortest ball you got in here? I want it.
Yeah. And you're a member at a club. These guys aren't, how many guys can hardly even break par? 2%. They're not shooting 62 out at your home club. If somebody shoots a 70, it's a great round of golf for most people.
Yeah.
So your home club's not getting destroyed by the modern golf ball or the equipment.
No, it isn't. It isn't. And we've got a lot of good players at the Cuesta. There's a black tee game, and there's a lot of low handicap players. Some of them are scratch, and a lot of times nobody breaks par, if the wind's up or whatever. The third hole is 480. Half of them can't reach the green at 2 anyway now. What fun is that? So, it's I just think it's going to be a heck of a lot more trouble than it's going to be worth in the long run. And, there's still courses and conditions where, Hilton Head and I saw some stat where the scores were 0.004 lower, than they were 10 years ago or something. To me, it's just not enough of a difference to make a difference. And golf courses aren't obsolete. Great courses are still great courses, and give these guys credit. In my prime, I only swung it over 170 miles an hour ball speed twice in my life that I know of, and I was at the Ping Factory, and nothing hurt. I was 30 years old, in the best shape I could be in, and the best I did was 171. Now, guys today can hit 182, 185, maybe even 187 when they really wind up. Give them credit for that. I mean, they're bigger, stronger, faster. Technology's better. Obviously, the ball does go further, but the the shafts are better. The club heads are bigger. Sweet spots are bigger. But, bottom line is this guy swing it 10 to 15 miles an hour faster than we did 30 years ago, and you got to give him credit for that, I think.
Yeah, it's like every other sport. Watch an NBA game. Look how good those guys are and how big they are, and now they, all the guys who are 6'10" can play 4 positions on the court. They can shoot it. They can draw. They're just better athletes. And like I said, I hope the champion, like for example, I hope the Champions Tour doesn't. I just hope they say we're not going to use that new ball. as you well know, it's a lot of entertainment out there. You guys are entertaining clients. You're doing cocktail nights. You're doing 2 pro-ams. They want to see you hit it 280, 290 out there and reach some par 5s and make an eagle. Like, you're entertaining people out there. I want to see stuff I can't do still from you guys out there. That's what I want to see. I want to play a golf course that I played and gone, man, I played great and shot 75, and Kelk just put up a 66 out there today from the tips.
Right.
That's so good. I don't want to see you guys, where, like you said, a good drive is 250 or 260 when you guys are playing 71 or 72. I mean, you guys are still playing 71, 7,200 yards. If you're hitting at 250 off the tee, it's going to be boring with 4 hybrid into some of these par 4s.
And I get that question all the time about our courses. Do you play, what's your average length course, 6,400? I said, no, probably over 7,000. We play 2 or 3 courses that are 64 or 65, but the reason the scores are so low on our tour most of the time is because we have no rough, with exception of 3 turns here. And our closest pin to the edge of the green is normally 5, not 3, like the tour. So when you short side yourself, it's much easier to get up and down on the Champions Tour. And people want to see us shoot good scores and hit good shots. They don't want to see us, hacking all over.
I agree. Right. And then, like I said, I want to be kind of, blown away by it, where it's like, damn, these guys can still really play. I don't want to see less distance for you guys out there because of this new ball. I mean, I hope, and I imagine the Champions Tour understands that, right? They still want to see their heroes playing really good golf.
Yeah, I'm sure they do too.
Got to ask you about LIV. Haven't talked to you since that came out. It's changed the tour with these things coming on and, having the elevated events and stuff. What's your thoughts on it? And I know you're a longtime PGA Tour player, and I'm sure you're loyal to the tour, but, it's one of those deals where back in your heyday, if somebody at 30 years old would have said, Kelk, here's $50 million guaranteed plus playing for this, I'm sure you can probably understand the other side too, where they go, I'm one wrist injury away from losing my card forever. I'll for my family, I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, if this would have came along, in 1990, who's to say that I wouldn't have done the same thing that those guys did? I don't blame, and you've seen this. A lot of guys have said this. They don't blame them one bit for taking the money, and that's what it is, a money grab. All this crap about spending more time at home with the family and I mean, that was all a bunch of garbage. It was strictly about the money, but I don't blame them one bit. I did watch some of it last year. I didn't really like how it skipped all over the place and what team was winning and who's on what team. You had to kind of look it up. Over to 13, over to 6, over to 2. Kind of lost me a little bit on that. And then this year I haven't watched a shot, but I have checked the scores to see who won. I mean, like I said, I don't blame them. I'm still friends with Dustin Johnson. I'm still friends with Charles Howell, and I'm still friends with a lot of those guys. But they have, you're right, they have forced the tour's hand. And a lot of what the tour's done this year and next year is a result of LIV Golf. So, again, with the elevated events, is that a good thing or a bad thing? If you're in the top 70, I guess it's a good thing.
Well, I never understood, like the cut thing. and then from two parts, right? And I was, let's say, I am a fan of yours, right? When I was a kid, and I'd go out to the John Deere when it was the Hardys, right, at the other golf course there, right, in Coal Valley, and I'd wanted to watch you play at Oakwood, yeah, and I wanted to watch you play, and my dad would have to take me out there, and if you weren't there, or my heroes were out there because my dad had to work on Saturday, that would have been disappointing, right? If you didn't make the cut, and I want to see you play. And the other thing I never quite understood, and I've talked to TA about this quite a bit too, of like, okay, you're out there all week, and as you well know, if the tour asks you, hey, you're doing the Wednesday Pro-Am, but if you could, go by this group and say hello on a Tuesday night, like you would have done it, right? You don't have to, but you would have. Right. And then you're doing that stuff all week, and you're doing the Pro-Am, and there's fans coming out to see you on Thursday and Friday, and you miss the cut, and you're supposed to lose $8-10 grand that week. To me, that doesn't seem fair.
Right.
So I can understand why the players want that change, right? Where it's like, if you're a hockey player and you lose the game, they don't cut your salary in half. Like, I can see where putting that $500,000 into each guy's account at the start of the year now, to cover that expense, they had to go fix this stuff. I just, and then for the, in the elevated events, I get why there's no cut now, because people want it, even if, Colin Morikawa was off that week, there's people who want to see him play. And they don't care if he shoots 73 that day.
Right. And that, that's what the match play did by having the group play the first 3 days, because if Tiger Woods or whoever loses in the first round, you're all bummed out. You got tickets to go on the second or third round, and you want to watch Tiger, but he's not there. So,
exactly.
And the same with the elevated events. I get it too. You're talking about the 70 best players in the world. And if you can't go till Saturday, you want to watch them on Saturday. So you don't want to have to look in the paper and see that all your 4 favorite players all missed the cut. So, I get it too. It's kind of makes total sense.
Yeah. Would you get frustrated no one wants to miss a cut, but did you think eventually that rule would have to change too, where they'd have to start covering that expense versus just coming out of your pocket?
Yeah, sure would have been nice in my frame.
It's not cheap.
100,000 times I said, sometimes trying to make a cut, coming down the last 4 holes to try to make a cut on the PGA Tour, I'm more nervous than when I was trying to win a tournament for 2 reasons. I live back in Phoenix then, say I'm playing in Westchester. Then what do? Do I fly all the way from New York back to Phoenix Saturday morning to spend a day and a half with the kids, and then fly all the way back to Boston for the next tournament, or do I just sit in a hotel room all weekend and sulk? It's so much pressure to make cuts, depending on where you're at and what's going on in your life. And it was a lot of extra travel involved. So, it would have been nice to kind of have that expense picked up. That's for sure.
So even in your prime, and I understand as a competitor you don't want to miss a cut, but even in your prime, you were like, I'm grinding out this last 9 to get in that cut line. Like, it's still, even though you were doing great and you were one of the best players on tour, you were still in that fighting mode like you were when you were first on tour, if needed, to get to that cut line and make it. There was that much motivation still.
100%. And every guy has it. I mean, if you're 5 or 6 over and the cut's going to be a couple under, then obviously you're not going to shoot 8 under the last 9 holes to make the cut. But if you think, okay, and what the cut's going to be, sometimes it moves a shot or either way, but in general, you kind of know what it's going to be. And you're saying, okay, I got to shoot 3 under the side. I just got to. I'm not flying all the way out here to Honolulu and play a Hawaiian Open and miss the cut. And I remember I've thought that several different times out there. I said, I've got to, 18's an easy birdie. I've got to shoot 3 under the side to make the cut. And a lot of times I did it. It's just you kick your mind into gear and forget about the first 27 holes because, you want to make the cut so bad and not have to fly home on Saturday morning.
Do you think that animosity, like I said, you're still friends with a lot of the guys. Do you think the media is just playing this up where these guys, now one guy's on LIV and one's on PGA Tour, yet they're all making a hell of a lot more money? Do you think that animosity is real, or do you think it's basically made up bullshit?
I think it's pretty much made up. I don't think there's going to be any issues at the Masters dinner or at the Masters with any players. I mean, I know maybe a few players don't really care for one another, but Bubba Watson said, if, somebody changed jobs, I wouldn't be mad at them. That's their choice. So what difference does it make? Everybody's, I think it's kind of a media blow up.
Yeah, to give something to talk about. Yeah.
Give them something to talk about. Like, what happens if you get paired with, Patrick Reed, at the Masters, or have to sit next to him at the Masters dinner? What are you going to talk about? They'll figure out something. Guys aren't going to start throwing punches at each other. So I think everything's going to go pretty smoothly that week. Yeah.
In the Phil thing, right? Like, when he first came out and said this stuff, and he's going to LIV, and people were pissed at him, right? And do you think at the end of the day, because now every one of these guys is making more money, the tour came up with a hell of a lot more money, the guys on LIV are getting well paid, very well paid. Do you think Phil's reputation, because in some ways he's been vindicated by what the tour has done to help the tour players out, so he always said it's going to help all the players, do you think his reputation gets, over time, for lack of a better word, fixed? Because in some ways he was...
Yeah, I think it already has to some degree. Last year, he wasn't real popular amongst anybody. And, he just kind of said, just wait and see what happens. And as time's gone on, I think his reputation's been a little bit, they call him a genius for the reason. He's a pretty smart guy. And I think his reputation has definitely been vindicated a little bit. He hasn't played well. Say what you want. He's 52 years old. It starts to happen at some point. Luckily I played really good until I was about 55 and until my back went south. But, it happens. But he's a pretty smart guy, and he kind of saw all this coming, I think.
Yeah, right? Like, at some level, they should all hug him. The PGA Tour players are making, the Korn Ferry Tour guys should be hugging him. The purses went up. They're going to be over $1 million, right? Like, they're all making more money by him kind of falling on his sword, in my view. Yeah, no, I agree.
I think he was, he had a vision somehow of that this was going to happen, and that a lot more money was going to come to the tour. And like he said, he wanted to make the tour better, and I think he probably did, and the Korn Ferry Tour.
And him not playing, he's playing a little better this year, but I'd have to, I don't know the man or anything, but it would be very hard to go from being loved and, everyone wanted to see Phil and root for Phil, and all of a sudden to be the villain. Man, that'd be hard mentally, right? Like, I can see where last year would be a hard, some poor golf and questioning a bunch of things. Like, that would be, you were out there a long time. If everyone really just booed you out of, nowhere, like, and that'd be a lot of pressure to deal with. It really would. I could see where last year golf probably wasn't a priority for him.
Yeah, it had to be very hard on him. Some of those interviews that I saw him do, and the questions that were thrown at him, man, it was just, it was downright mean. It was hard on him, and I'm sure it had to bother him, and I'm sure that had an effect on his golf as well. But he stayed his course and did his thing and said what he said, and now I think it's definitely a lot better for him.
Yeah, it's strange on some of those questions, Calcavecchia, because it's still a human being at the end of that table, and he still has feelings, and he still has a family, right? Like, it's very. I watch some of those questions sometime. It's like, wow, is the humanity of that? Like, he's almost not a real person. It's like he's some made up character, but he's still a human being, with a wife and kids and friends, and sometimes it can. It comes with the territory. He's a public figure, but man, some of those questions were just brutal that I would never ask. In an interview or something like that. He's still a person. Yeah. I don't quite understand the media on some of that stuff.
Yeah, all this stuff they asked him, what are you doing with all the blood money you accepted, and blah 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 about the Saudis, and just brutal questions. So it had to affect him.
Agreed. Well, last question I have, not golf related. I know you love going to concerts. Is there, and you're getting healthier, so you can kind of do a little bit more of this. What is on the agenda potentially for this summer that you're excited to go see, a live show, and who are you going to kind of see if you can fit in the schedule?
Yeah, I'm always looking for concerts, and I really would like to see, although I've seen Def Leppard several times. I've only seen Motley Crue once, and even though Mick Mars is retired, I would like to go see that show at some point somewhere. I saw Pat Perez tweeted in October. There's a 3-day festival in India with Metallica, Iron Maiden, Tool, a few other bands I like a lot, Ozzy. So that would be fun to see that. But I don't know if I got 3 days in me for that. But yeah, I'm always after my first 2 weeks after my first knee surgery in November. I went to a metal concert with my son, and we rented a wheelchair, that had the leg where I could I could hold my leg
Stick
out
it out.
straight. Yeah, we drove down to Pompano to see the show and hopped out of the car, popped the wheelchair out, and he pushed me around. And sure enough, right in the middle of the whole arena by the soundboard was a handicap section. So I wheeled right in there. My son went and got me a beer and had the best time. So there's always a way to go see a show, even if you can't walk.
Yeah, and the people are clearing the path for you. You got like a little orange flag for safety, right? Like, yeah, this is perfect. You should just rent a wheelchair more often, right?
Right. Yeah.
I've seen Motley twice, and Vince can't hit those notes as well as he used to, and I'm sure they're using backtrack stuff. But the show within the show, it's so good.
Right.
It's like Motley Crue, right? And the Tommy Lee's a great drummer, and Nikki Sixx. I mean, the back end of that band is the band, right? Like Mick's a great guitarist, but the bass playing and the drumming in that band is so tight and powerful. It's still a hell of a show. It's still just a hell of a show, and it's all hits. Like the energy's fun, So yeah, I'm with you on that one. I would love to go see. I think they're doing Chicago again this year, but they're awesome.
Yep. So I'm sure I'll find other to see.
Yeah, and I have not seen Def Leppard, but I mean, once again, and also with that tour, you got Poison in it as well. Poison's a great concert too of just fun, right? Like they bring back like the '80s, and Bret Michaels knows what he's doing. So I'm with you.
Yep.
I didn't see it last year, but I would not mind going to see that tour again this summer. So. Well, thanks. I always love your perspective. You've seen so much, and we look forward to seeing you back on the Champions Tour. Get yourself healthy, and hopefully next time we talk, no injuries. You're playing great. You're back out hitting power fades, and the scores are going low, and and you're competing out there. So that's what I hope our next conversation entails. Calling you after a win, that would be nice. So. Yeah,
that would be nice. That would be a great conversation to have. I think I can do it. I'm looking forward to it. Again, this year, kind of the slow comeback year. I'm going to play probably 7 or 8 no matter what. And then the next 2 years, I'm going to really give it all I got and reevaluate and see what happens after that. But I still love to play, still love the game. So hopefully something good can happen.
There's no doubt. There's guys winning out there in their 60s. Look at Langer. Yep. Look at Jay Haas is still competitive, damn near at 70.
Right.
O'Meara's won in his 60s. Like there is no question. You guys. If you're Hale Irwin's age, probably not. But 63, 64, 65, you can still win out there. You get healthy, you're 100%. You can still compete and win out there.
That's very true. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, keep working at it. We'll talk soon. Thanks again, Calc.
All right, Jason. You got it. My pleasure.